All right. Well, thank you and welcome everyone to another episode of Bayyinah and Friends. Today we have a very special episode. What's today's date? It is Thursday, July 23rd. The year is 2020.
Yes.
The year of clear vision, 2020
That's
vision.
right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and...
For those who have divine sight.
That's right. Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and kick off today's show. Our special guest is just checked in, and you know her as Èzili Dantò, the multi-talented, gifted, has joined us today to have a conversation with our host, Professor Bayyinah Bello. So, my Bello, go ahead and take it over.
Thank you, Franz. Thank you very much. In the name of all those who've gone before us, all those who've shed light, created light, and show us the way to find our way in every situation, give us the strength to fight and create what is not there, to invent bridges, to create whatever is necessary for the fight to carry on and continue till freedom. Every step of the way. To all those who created Haiti, all those who created our planet, our galaxy, we call on them to be present with us today so we may tap within and raise our own power. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Èzili Danto, welcome. How are you?
Ça va, Kijonier. Honneur, respect.
En forme. Honneur, respect. Èzili is with us, and as we do every week, we start with a poem. Because we are so aware that our people have lost the knowledge, the perception of what is freedom. So every week, we want to remind them that over 4,500 years ago, we were debating, writing, elaborating on freedom. And our ancestor, Ethiopian ancestor, philosopher, Amunhotep, left us this text that we want to make our own every time. And every time we read it, we learn, we gain more from it. So today, Èzili and I will read it for you. We will take each a paragraph, listen very carefully, and try to grow as we do this exercise. I'll start. Freedom? Our first mistake was that we thought of freedom as a place rather than the continuation of a struggle. Zili?
Tyranny never sleeps. Our second
mistake was that we thought of freedom as a goal rather than a launching pad from which to reach our goals.
Without purpose, freedom hardly matters.
Our third mistake was that we thought that freedom would make us free. That, however, is license, not freedom at all.
Freedom is being shackled to identity, purpose, and direction, and being in constant pursuit.
Thank you. So, what do you think about Amunhotep's words?
I like that freedom is being shackled to identity, purpose, and direction, and being in constant pursuit.
Sounds like your biography. How do I go back to see my guest? I guess Franz would have to. Yes, thank you. Yes, ma'am. So, my favorite paragraph here is the second paragraph. It's the shortest paragraph. Tyranny never sleeps. No details necessary. no explanations necessary. Tyranny never sleeps. Each one of us can put as many examples as we want. But to me, the best of example is Haiti's history. Yes, we put 14 years in fighting for freedom. And we whipped three most forceful armies in the world to get our freedom. And then we went into celebrating, fighting for nonsense, fighting with each other, go to sleep, go to rest, because we were tired from 300 years of slavery. And as we did all of this, bit by bit, our freedom was stolen away. Tyranny came back in every form, local and foreign. And today, some of us can hardly believe that we were once a free people. Tyranny never sleeps. What do you say, Ezili?
I think it's a season. I think that our history goes back so much further than 6,000 years, so much further than recorded history.
That's true.
My opinion that this season is but a minute. And I think that there was a point in time where tyranny was not there, in my opinion, from where I come from. I think that in this season, we're part of the biosphere. And in that biosphere, there is a vibration that's gone viral. And in that vibration that's gone viral, there are people like me and you who even within this, we are free, which is why I run Free Haiti, Free Haiti, because when tyranny came back in my presence, in my time, I stood up and said, I am free. And I think that I try to lead what is free Haiti. So there is a Haiti that's not free, but it is not me. So I wanted to give that example to the world of what a free woman looks like, thinks like, acts like, and fights for. And I think that in this season, tyranny is all encompassing. I feel it in my bones. I saw it when I went to Haiti, but it didn't represent me. So I think those of us who are here, who work to show a different Haiti, are free even within this oppression. And that's, to me, the lesson of Ezili. That's the lesson of Ogu that our ancestors left us, which was even as they were being raped, they could escape by being Ezili. They could escape by being Ogu. These are lessons to understand what is the most important thing. Evil exists right now, but it is because we are not exercising and remembering who we are.
Absolutely. Remembering who we are, learning to know who we are, which is vital. There is no way to have freedom when you don't know who you are. One example I like to share with my students is a fish, a pretty little fish in the sea, and who decided that he wanted to go on top of a tree and sing like that bird. And so the fish is wishing and wishing and trying to figure out how does it come out of the sea and go to the tree. Well, that was his lucky day. Some little girl got into the sea and saw the pretty fish, and pop, little girl grabbed the fish and runs to her sister and say, look what I got. And the fish see that he's real close to the tree, says, wow, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna go up this tree and sing. But then what happened? Out of its element, it dies. That's what happened when you have other people's dreams, when you are out of your nature, when you are out of your identity. Even when it looks like you had a purpose, actually, it's not your purpose. And it cannot help you to grow. And that's why identity is so important. And that, to me, that poem, Freedom, every time I read it, it helps me to become stronger in my vision of what is freedom and how not to take kaka poule pou be. You know the expression? Bran kaka poule pou be?
Yes. You know, at the end of the day, like I said, you know, it's where and how you enter. So if you enter 500 years ago, then tyranny will seem like tyranny is all encompassing. But if you study our people, and you could see that they have been here for millions of years, and that they were so connected to the biosphere that they could write and leave for us what one sun galactical year is, which is 26,000 years, one sun year. If they could do that, what are we talking about? We're talking about 1,200 years of Arab enslavement in Africa, and since 1492 here in Haiti. The bringers of doom has reigned. But within that reigning, I think that it's how you look at the universe that you might be able to see that, for instance, when I'm teaching, let's see, the Igbo dance, both the hands of my ancestors and their legs were tied, and yet they still danced. So what is freedom? Yes, there is a vibration out here that feeds off of Black pain. And I am convinced that vibration gets its nourishment from our pain. We are the sacrifice to that vibration. And it is precisely because we have been here for so long that I think it's a shock to our soul and our system that this could exist. So I know, for instance, that in my life, it took me a long time to understand evil and to try to not convince it that this was the wrong way. I tried to do that for a while because I couldn't believe that was human. I think the way I issue into the world is called Red, Black, and Moonlight. And it is a gift the ancestors gave to me. To prepare for this interview, I went back to reading that because that was 26 years ago. That was the first time I had gone back to Haiti as a little girl. And as I read what I wrote then, I have lived those textures, Red, Black, and Moonlight. And today I'm a different person. I will not try to reason with evil. I am. Evil may accept it or not, but I do know that the universe is good. So tyranny is an aberration of nature. And because it's an aberration of nature, Haiti is already free. In order for us to change and manifest a different paradigm, we must be what it is that we're looking for. And to be what you're looking for is to accept you are already there.
Excellent. You went right into the next thing I want to ask you. In a different way though. Would you kindly share with us your most pleasant memory as a young person in Haiti? So your most pleasant memory in Haiti, what would it be?
It's a mixed experience. I've written about my early years in the Kimbila books. And this particular experience, you all can find it if you look for, I think it's flashback to autumnal equinox. My whole spirit works with the seasons. So autumnal equinox was when I fell, and I rise at the summer solstice. And I'll tell you that story. When I was young, my mom, we used to live in Pétionville. I believe that's where Boutefrère is. I was born in Sancerelle Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were not supposed to go outside because there was a Mardi Gras. And I just heard the drums. I snuck out of bed and I ran up and I saw the people went to stilts and lots of color and the music. I don't know, I must have been 3 or 4 years old. I got up on a boulder so I could dance with the passing caravan of revelers. And I fell off that boulder. I still have the mark right here. And that experience, it just reminds me how much I love music, how much that even though it was forbidden for me to go out and see these wonderful colors and rhythms, I went anyways. And then I had to go back home with all this falling. But I tell that story because metaphorically, I take it another place. So that's one of my experiences. Yeah, I mean, I have others, but I remember that one the most, and I've written about that one.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Now tell us, what kind of a teenager were you?
I was an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I was very intense. I danced. I was a gymnast. I was a cheerleader. I expressed myself through movement when I was young. Even though I was always a thinker, I try to connect my body to what I was seeing in the world. So as a teenager, my parents were immigrants from Haiti. They worked a couple of jobs. There were many of us in the house. I was the one to cook when my mom went to work. I learned how to do that. I would run home from school. I would cook. I would run to track practice or cheerleading practice, and then run back. Those are the days that I remember as a young person. Just the running, the gymnastic, and I do remember something that has become part of my work as a lawyer, like my experience as an athlete. I was pretty decent in my in my events. Yeah, I held like some records in the state that I was in, Connecticut. And one of the things I remember is that me and the other girls, we were very good. Our team was very good. And if we wanted to play with the heads of the other team, we would get out there before a meet and run as fast as we could and break the record that was coming into the meet. And then you psyched everybody out, like, oh, there's no way we can beat these girls. I remember that years later when I went to Haiti, and I was the lawyer for the president of Haiti, and the US came with a show of force at like a meeting with the Minister of Justice. And they wanted, and I knew they were trying to psych us out the way I used to try to psych out our opponents. And so these lessons, I understand psychology in that way. I understand why it is that they put some of the things in the negative images they put on the news about us. They want us psyched out. And psychology is so important in everything we do. So as a young athlete, as a dancer, psyching out your opponent or psyching yourself out so that you could go out and be the best that you could be are things that I learned early on as an athlete, as a gymnast, as a dancer. And I've applied that in my role at Free Haiti, in my role at when I first went to Haiti, because I saw the show of force. Because even as a young lawyer, I remember the law firm that I work for. There might be a case that I knew nothing about, but they would take like the young lawyers and they would bring you to court just to make you sit there to show a force. So these things are, I think that being an athlete, I learned a lot of lessons in life that I do now. I use in my regular adult life.
Thank you. Okay, as we follow you on the net, we see the passionate woman, the fighting lawyer, the militant, always with a cause. How about the family? What's the relationship with family, with siblings?
I sort of played a role in my family as the older sister, even though I wasn't the older sister. And so before I came out here, I was the dutiful daughter.
Let's say when you were in Connecticut?
Uh-huh.
All right. Connecticut is very happy to they've already identified you here. So for them, okay?
So there's 6 of us in my family, 5 girls and 2 boys. I know I'm probably the only one that when I made that U-turn, I couldn't undo the U-turn to IT. It hasn't been that way for all of my siblings. And I've always, in terms of family, my mom, my father, my mom was a storyteller, and that's where I got my love for telling stories. She's from Fondé Blanc, and my father's from Benin in the south of Haiti. They always told stories about this grand wedding they had. My mom was really kind of the church, kitchen, work woman. And I think that part of my way of being is that I'm my mother, but I'm also my father. My father was Negine, like he used to say it. You see him say Negine. And he used to say things like, things like that. So the stories of my mom and my father, I think they're what carried me into understanding that I knew in IT that was different than the IT that I was being told in history books and the IT that I was being told in the newspaper. I was like, that wasn't my family. So that's why I do the non-colonial narrative on IT, because the faces of what I am, I didn't see in their narrative. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now the big question. How do you carry around a name like Èzili Dantò? What kind of power does it bring? And what kind of obstacles does it forge?
You know, Dessalines and Bookman said the same thing. Throw away the image of the white man's God and listen to the voice of liberty within your hearts. And when I was, you know, I'm not a French woman. I'm Haitian. And my father called me Ezili. And I had an aunt. Her name was Tante Dor. And when I was in Haiti, whenever someone got sick in our family, my mom would first go to the doctor, but then she always called Tante Dor, especially if somehow that sickness lasted for more than a couple of days. So I saw Tante Dor. She had a power. And her power came from her herbal cures, her prescient dreams. And that I wanted to understand what was that? I didn't learn it in school, but I learned it in the family and the stories of the family. So I just remember before we came to America, Tante Dor, who was the mumble of my family, the person that you went to if you wanted a dream interpreted, if you felt that she was the one, my father, who I always saw as a very, very strong man, but he went to his sister for these mystical things. And that always impressed me. So when I grew up in Connecticut, well, in Haiti, I was petite, Missoul et Kléber, a grand petite Irani and Mélis, you know, these wonderful grandettes and people of the town. As a matter of fact, the town that my mom comes from has her last name as that name, but it's a name of a French man. So I couldn't hold on to those names once I studied and became conscious. So I remember Tante Dor. I remember the space she held in the family as a healer. I remember the respect they gave to her. And then when I came to, so when I was in IT, if I walked down the street, there's like, ah, ça c'est petite Missoul, ça c'est petite Kléber, ça c'est whatever. But when I came to America, everybody called me Black. Oh, that's a Black girl. And I wanted to understand all of these different titles and labels. I was no longer petite Kléber and Missoul. I was part of a collective. And what was that collective about? And thus began my journey. And when I got there, it wasn't until after I came from Haiti, the first time in 1994, that nothing fit me anymore. My law degree didn't fit me. The work I was doing didn't fit me. And I went back to the studio as a dancer and I rebuilt myself again. And Ezili won't let me go, so that's what I am. But the challenge is that strangers accept my work and who I am a little easier than my own people. I've been kicked out of a church because of my name. I've been hit in the head with a chair because of my name. I've been called all kinds of names. But here we are, right? When I studied the stories, the histories of our people, I didn't see a place that I could fit other than mother. I played mother, as I said, when I was a young child. And my nature is Ezili Danto's nature. So if our mission is to replicate and imitate the highest energy of our ancestors, Ezili was the highest energy, and she was my metet. I have her personality in terms of defend. I always defend the underdog. I always defend the innocent. So that was my personality innately. And I found myself in her, or she took control of me one way or the other. So I carry it right now.
Great. Isn't it kind of funny that a lawyer named Èzili Dantò was defending a priest president?
Yes, yes, it is. You know, it's not odd for Americans, but it's very odd for Haitians. When I say it's not odd for Americans, where I come from as a lawyer, I was first an entertainment attorney because I was an artist before I was a lawyer. So I knew a lot of artists. So when I got out of law school, I was representing a lot of hip hop artists. Mostly I represented people that I thought represented what I wanted to put out in the world. But there came a point in time when the colonial narrative of hip hop, which was a lot of the work I was doing back in the 90s, and the sexism wasn't something that I could work with. Patriarchy takes out Èzili Dantò, Isis, Asset, whatever name you want to give the great mother, the divine presence of the feminine. Patriarchy, where I live, erased her and made her son God and destroyed her. So I always felt that that didn't make any sense. That did not make any sense to me as a thinker, as a human being. So I always represented men. It's just in patriarchy, all my clients mostly were men, and so in America, I represented recording artists, film artists, and mostly there was just a trickle of women artists. And then when I got to IT, and the way I got to IT was that I always write. So I wrote a piece called Haitian Women Silent No More. Oh my goodness. And Aristide was in exile, and he asked someone to find me, and that's how that started, right? But there were women in my life at that point, like Madame Sixto, and my mother, who were in love with Aristide. They were people that I respected. At that point in time, I didn't really have too much of an idea of Haitian politics. I was representing hip hop artists and doing more corporate work. I started out as a corporate finance attorney. So when I met Aristide the first time in Washington, D.C., that was the first question I asked him. I read his book first, and I asked him, I said, how could you be a priest and be and think of yourself as a revolutionary? Now, he's not the only priest I've represented in Haiti. I think I represented two major ones, Père Jean-Just and Aristide, both priests. But I asked them.
Revolutionaries.
Say again?
And revolutionaries.
Yes, both of them. So I asked President Aristide, didn't Bartholomew de la Casa kind of started the the slave trade and the triangular trade, how could you bow down to the Vatican, who actually created this whole paradigm? And he said to me, it's because where I come from, it was the only way to get an education. I did not have those constraints in my life because of my mother and my father and the work that they did. So that was his answer to me. I asked Père Jean-Just the same question when I represented him. I don't ask people that I represent in terms of legal work, what church do they go to, whether they're Protestant, Catholic, Vodouist. I represent you in Haiti. It's impossible to be a human rights lawyer and just represent Vodouists. It doesn't even make any sense. My desire was to institutionalize the rule of law in Haiti so that people could have the freedom of any religion they might want. That was the work I was doing with Aristide. So what he worshipped was what he worshipped. But he himself, that was a convenience. Père Jean-Just said that, and I think I really believe, where Aristide, I think, was, did what most Haitian men do, women do, you go where you can find the opportunity in order to have better circumstances. When I asked Père Jean-Just that same question, he said because he believed in the little church and that these big people had taken over the little church. And I looked at Père Jean-Just because at that time, it was the church that was destroying what he was trying to do. And so for him, si l'Église is his reason for becoming a priest. And I said to him, for Père Jean-Just, that si l'Église was destroyed back in the Council of Nicaea. Si l'Église was destroyed when the Roman took over. I don't, what do you, so, but that's what he believes, and that's what he stood for, liberation theology, and that he could find a way through the hierarchy of the Pope, the hierarchy of the church, to liberate Dessalines' children. I didn't share those views, but I definitely loved Père Jean-Just. And I remember, as a lawyer, sometimes you have to make choices that are not your personal choices, but they're the best interest of your client. So I remember after the first coup d'etat, the second coup d'etat, when Père Jean-Just was brought to jail, and someone gave him a cell phone and he called, and I said, what can I do for you? And they had beaten him up at a church, and he had the phone, and I said, what can I do for you? I mean, what can we do right away? And Père Jean-Just said to me to call the nuncio. And I said, but Père Jean-Just, he's the one that probably ordered for you to be arrested.
Yes, ma'am. That's the way this whole system works, right? Okay. Let us now go on with Francis' help. Go on to my duties. My duties. So I'm not fired from Fondation Félicité. All right. This program, you have Fondation Félicité, Fondation Marie-Claire Rose, Félicité Bonheur Dessalines, the full legal name, Fondation Félicité for short, right? And you can keep in touch with Fondation Félicité through Instagram, to official Bayyinah Bello YouTube channel that's coming up soon, through this number, 509-2940-0869, through our website, www.fondationfelicite.com. And if you wish to donate, if you want to help support our programs, then it's pourfondationfelicité@gmail.com. That is, I think did not miss any part of my duty. And we're really looking forward to hearing from you through, there's one thing that's not given here. If you want to contact us, Bayyinah, Bello at fondationfelicité.com. Please. Okay. I have a request. There is a brother, an artist, who wrote to me and asked me to help him do something. And I can no longer find him on my telephone. I don't know whether he wrote a WhatsApp, whether he wrote through email. I can't really remember the name. So please, brother, if you're still following, if you're here today, do contact me again, and so we can further your request. Take good care. And let's now return with our guest, Èzili Dantò, Esquire. I don't see you put the SQ behind your name. Why?
No, thank you very much. You won't see my what do you call it, degrees anywhere either. No, thank you. I don't know if I would do it all over again. The law is what is Najoki. Najoki, you know, that King Congo language of the evil forces of empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Ooh, you go a lot further than I did. We have the same reaction, but you've gone a few steps further than me. All right. Would you be interested in dabbling in politics?
No, thank you. Politics is about lies. I learned that representing Aristide. But I mean, I suppose it's the reason I say that, not to put any disparaging, no, I think I'll keep saying that. Politics is about lies, because it's about appealing to the lowest common denominator. And at the same time as you're appealing to this lowest common denominator, you, because of the construct of the system, you are beholden to the elites. So you appeal to the lowest common denominator for votes, and then you belong to the ones who can pay for you.
Exactly.
No one can pay for me.
All right. So we would say, as a difference, we say, as it is set up today, exactly what my sister says is exactly what it is. The world over. The world over. Don't you make it, don't have the illusion that it's that way in our countries and it's different in other countries.
Oh, no.
It's the same system, the world over. So once we're clear on that, then you can make the choice as to what you will do. You can make your own choices. Very good. So you are a woman of many passions. You have so far talked about the IT passion. How about the artist passion?
It comes from IT, actually. It's how I issue into the world. All my art is reflecting the experiences that I come from. So, yeah. You know, I don't know if it's a passion. I've always been intense, so it's my personality. And so as an artist, I was very happy that Connecticut, remembered the years that I had worked as an artist there, doing on a micro level. I worked as a dancer, going to community centers and teaching Haitian culture It's just, I was passionate about showing people who we are. And the talent that I had was in movement. So I showed people the juba and what it meant. I showed people the Igbo and what it meant. So my art has a purpose. It's not abstract. Before I came here, I was looking at my poetry collection just to remember sometimes, because I tend to do different things and it puts me in a different, like if I'm doing legal work, it's not the same thinking as when I'm doing, you know, breaking sea chains, for instance. So I think that I was gifted a culture that's so beautiful. I want to share it. And I share it through dance. I share it through expressing. Like, I think all artists express what they've lived. And when you do that, you touch source. It's not fake. So for me, everything I have comes from Haiti. I'm rooted in that. And sometimes, you know, some members of my family are very mad at that. It's like, there's a whole other world out there, Ezili. And I know there's a whole other world out there. I studied that world. I traveled that world before I got to Haiti. I'm an old woman. I danced in Vienna. I traveled all continents before I was 30. So I think that because I was able to do so many things at a very young age, I have no real desire. And I've never had any desire. And you can't have a desire to be approved when you do the work that I do. So my
you just
work,
want to be you.
I am, that's it. Whatever that is, that's what I am. I let people make the determination. But one thing I knew that I didn't want, I did not want some white liberal to write my history. So I wanted to write my own history.
Excellent, excellent. You were going to share a few words from your poem with us?
Oh my goodness. So I invite everyone, if you really want to know some of the work that I've done, I know that Edwidge picked one of my pieces. I think it's Ambadlo Nagine, in her, so I took that out.
Is her cousin, Edwidge Dantika?
Ezili Danto, yeah. Let me see. It's called I Just Lost My Way, Ambadlo Nagine. And I wrote this in, I don't want to say how long ago. All right. You guys can find that on page 189 of IT Noir 2, edited by Edwidge. Like I said, you know, I've always had these textures because besides the oppression of having someone else's culture be put on you and the lies of Western education, there is something else going on, at least in me. Like I wanted to understand why I was here, but it had nothing to do with anything, just to understand my biology, my connection to the cosmos. And in writing, I find a way to describe those things. So I'm looking, so I'm looking 189. Let's see. So you'll see, for instance, that I'm always talking about the moon because since I was a little girl, it had something to say to me. And I know that sounds strange, but it's only now that I'm able to articulate what it had said to me. And I wrote it in Red, Black, and Moonlight, but it took me a lifetime to understand what I wrote because I believe that Red, Black, and Moonlight was given to me. And it was given to me because When I came back from Haiti, the first time I went, like I said, it felt like something had entered my body. It felt like I didn't see what I went to find. Remember I was saying that there was all these different hyphenates. I was Petit Michoul, that I understood. Then I was Black, then I was Haitian American, then I was Diaspora, then, you know, on and on and on. And I needed to be able to define all those for me. I just lost my way. I had it once when I didn't know any better. My earliest memories, if I go way back in infant times, are blank. A wall of black. Like when I'm in a dreamless sleep. There's no light, no noise, no color, no smell, no movement. Only a still, airless black. I'm there in that silent, airless black, but without thoughts, without flesh. Join one energy to another, no air in between. I cannot be sundered down through all the millenniums. I've no links there, no involvement, no kinky hair, no cameral skin, no sexual urge, no community, nor for parents, no hunger to take or give shape or to resist the shapes the universe, its powers and polarities impose on me. Here, in that airless, senseless emptiness, there's no torment about harvests and things, no dialectic, no contrast, no time, no reference points, no contradictory inclination, no everyday, rhythmic, organic urge to expand, no impatient temperaments getting in the way, no interminable long roads, forests, and thicket, and most liberating of all, no impossible dreams. That everyday struggle to overcome social injustice and inequality of opportunity. When the I who stands before you withdraws, sleeps without dreams, there's just black. And the I that I am is lost, no witness to find me and define me narrow. The narrow that's daylight black, the narrow that's flat, one dimensional, a shadow. Where I come from, all is one. And that oneness is as black as the center of the sun, as dynamic of silence, as dynamic as the silence of celestial inspiration, compassion, love, peace, death. When everything drains off of me, all is empty, wide, and as deep as my crown chakra, and as black as the known cosmos. I'm learning to accept I've been lost for longer than I know.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know what that brought back to me? Remember the last time we were hacked?
Really?
You recall when we came back, what we said. All of us had to say, I am, I am, I am. I am the divine light. I am the unconditioned love. I am peace, older than time and space. I am, I am, I am. Did we ever saw that thing again? All right. Thank you, sister. That was a great poem. So you see, all of our guests, all the people who come here, women of all ages, men of different ages, each with multiple talents. All of us, rich in many ways. But the difference between those who we call in as guests and you who are listening to us and who will soon be asking questions is that we take the risk. We stepped out of the box and go about what we came here to do. Next month, we're going to have a very special Bayyinah guest because you're going to compete for it. We're going to have someone who usually comes in and sit and listen. And you will be sitting where Ezili is sitting now today. And in order to qualify, you will write a couple of paragraphs about who you are and what you want to do. And send it to us at Bayyinah Bello at fondationfelicite.com. And then we might pick one or two. So we're looking for your emails. Don't be afraid. We are full of talents. Show it, let it shine. This week I was reading about a young Senegalese woman who earned whatever degrees it was, you know, everybody's just shocked about. She did 99 point whatever on a 100 something. And people were talking, you know, this is, but you know, all this month, I think every week I've seen somebody. We've seen some 10-year-olds going to college, 12-year-olds working on a master's, et cetera, et cetera. It's all us. We are a powerful people, full of talents, with only one problem. Somehow they've made us forget who we are. And that's what we have to get back to. Once you take one step towards becoming yourself, then the universe will be too small for you. So I'm waiting, starting tonight. I want to see the emails, 2 paragraphs. Tell me who you are and what you want to accomplish. And then you'll be one of our guests in one of our programs in the month of August. All of you are qualified. Don't think this is a contest. All of you are qualified. All of you are people who are hard workers, who have great dreams, who are working at things, and sometimes you're just a little afraid to step out. What do you say about that, Ezili?
Oh, I think it's wonderful to open up your, in preparation for this, I watched a few of your pieces, and you have wonderful guests who teach. I saw the Edwidge, of course, and then Dr. Nobles, and I mean, these are folks with wonderful books out here that folks can learn from, and so on. So I think it's important to provide a platform for those. You know, that's why we create these platforms, right?
That's right.
That's the only reason that it's here. It's to give space to new voices.
Absolutely. So, you guys are ready? Oh, I have one more thing I want to mention. Sisters, brothers, my children, some of you call me Mommy Bayyinah, so my children, girls and boys, brothers, sisters, elders, all of you, please, whenever we step in front of a camera, we are exposing ourselves. Yes, you're home. Yes, you can be as comfortable as you want to. But if you're gonna have the camera on you, be careful how you sit, how you present yourself. It just came to my mind. I saw one time, a couple of times, people just like maybe stepping on a chair or stepping on a bed or anything like that. You know what can happen? What came to my mind was, let's say you were in an accident, something, you're going to court. Somebody comes up with this and say, oh, this is somebody who's always careless. Look, they walk on beds, they walk on tables, they da. Anything that you do can be used against you. Because once it goes out there, you don't know who will fall on it and what they will use it for. So please, let us be mindful and careful how we present ourselves. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Franz de Renoncourt, it's all back to you.
All right, thank you very much, my Bello, and thank you, Ezili. So your words are very inspiring, and just following you and your work And the last couple of days, I've done a lot of research. I've been on your website. Man, my head is just exploding all the different things that you do. You're a very busy woman with a lot of great initiatives. And I'm just happy that you're able to find some time in your schedule to join us this afternoon. So thank you for being here with us on Bayyinah and Friends.
Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. I wanted to say how much I enjoy your books and the fact that you have now made an alliance with one of my very favorite scholars out here.
Yes.
Congratulations to you for all that insight.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm a lucky guy. I have my Bello. Now I have Èzili Danto in one.
Yeah, I'm digging those colors.
Oh yeah, black. Hey, talk about it, black and red.
I'm digging those colors. Wakaima. I didn't even start talking about Free Haiti and so on.
That's right. And I got my shirt on, my Sexism.
There you go.
So I'm ready for today. Okay, so everyone, we have we're going into our question and answer session. So there are a few questions that came in from the chat that I'm going to start with. But also, if you have a question for Ezili or my Bello, go ahead and hit the raise icon button that's on your screen. If you don't know where it is, I think it's, you hit participant, and then there's a button there that says raise hand, and that way you'll be able to go into the feed and I'll be able to choose you so you can ask your question. Okay, so so if anyone has a question, go ahead and do that. But first, I will ask a question that about an hour ago, someone had to leave early, so they wanted to ask this question. Let's see, and this is for both. This is for both Ezili and my Bello. Okay, when we try to deeply understand the thoughts, the heart, the strategies, and the deeds of brothers like Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm, Dessalines, one might have the impression that they were not much willing to play in the hands of the colonial structure or stop playing as soon as possible. In other words, the negotiable, and most urgent goal is the effective implementation of the Pan-African structure, completely autonomous, politically, economically, and culturally self-sufficient and self-reliable. Not coincidentally, all of them were murdered or stabbed in the back or sabotaged somehow. Can we achieve this goal in a lifetime? Is it possible to achieve the structural change for our people worldwide? Have we as a people in general given up this goal, afraid of being murdered by the supremacists? Or are we somehow still fighting for this, maybe with other strategies, but still fighting the same fight? And I'll ask Ezili to answer that. Give her answer first.
Well, obviously, I lived for that fight, so we're still here. We are Free Haiti. I think that it goes back again to knowing who you are and knowing why you are. And once you know why you are and who you are, it doesn't really, I work within the dichotomies of the flesh, but I live in a colony of Ezili and Ogu. So once you use what's in your hand, I think that, all the people he named were males. And I think that's the problem. I do. I think that, people like Bayyinah Bello and others have a different view of what really is freedom. For me, I used to sit in spaces of power, of white supremacist power, before I came out here to do this work. And they would talk about all of these big words that were so context-free: justice and democracy and charity, and every single word that came out of the mouth of the status quo is about domination, no matter how they put it. Once you kind of understand that, then nothing will shock you. And then you know your direction already. Your direction is toward Dessalines and Black ruled independent Haiti. The world is waiting for us. I think now, though, we have metastasized, right? There's Haitian everywhere. And as the question intimates, you know, Haiti was the first Pan-Africanist. Dessalines didn't just liberate the island of Haiti. The indigenous army, the armies of the Incas, right? And then you connect Granditon and her knowledge. Then you connect Toya and her warrior knowledge. These are all things that we need as ingredients. One of the things I'm always pointing to in terms of direction is the 1805 Constitution of Jean-Jacques Dessalines. And when I see Black males, I always say, you know, Dessalines defined in his Constitution what that means. Are you a good father, a good son, a good husband, and above all, a good soldier? So when we're talking about freedom, we are still living within this biosphere of time. So you have to be a constant soldier. Well, I say the same thing to women. It applies to women too. Good mother, good wife, nurturer. We are the healers. And I think, you know, once we understand that we are healing, we have the healing arts. If you look at, for instance, this modern bringers of doom diseases, right? They always bring us diseases, and then they say we're the one that brings it, right? So they bring us like COVID, for instance, right? The thing that made me smile in all of this, the thing that made me so happy that I am Haitian, I just love that little president in Madagascar. You know, he just said, I don't need the WHO. I'm going back to Grand, and hey, we got this plant. And all of a sudden, Haitians remembered they had plants too. So it takes one. And I think that's the thing. It takes one. It took him to say no to WHO and to say yes to Grand. And I think that that's what Bayyinah stands for. That's what I stand for and live for. Because, you know, this idea that somehow we're going to need 100,000 people of like minds is psyching you out. Like I go to meetings, you know, I used to go to a lot of meetings. I don't do that anymore because I'm too old for it and too tired. But I used to go to all kinds of meetings in New York where these men talk all day long. But at the end of the day, for me, my measurement is what you're saying going to provide food, nurturing, safety to a child, healing to a child, because the sky spirit has to be arched back into Mother Earth again. And there's all this abstract. And I think that, you know, when we say Pan-Africanism, we need to define Pan-Africanism. You know, Dessalines went, he liberated anyone who was coming in our territory. And he said, you know, I'd give $40 a head for it, you know, to any captain to free these captives. You know, even after Dessalines' death, that went on even with Christophe, you see. He would capture ships and free them. So that's kind of where we are. And that's such a glorious people to be. So we want to be that, because when we, like, when I say my name is Èzili Dantò, and, you know, at least in this century, I want to live up to that name. I want the next Èzili Dantò to do greater things that I could never even imagine. But when I first started, you know, people were not naming their children Ezili. Today they are. I think that it takes one. So instead of waiting for what Hollywood says, that we have to organize, and it just takes one. Because if you remember the Haitian Revolution, to me, it's the greatest lesson, right? Even when Rochambeau came, he could hold a party and have Haitian maids there, because there were people that were still waiting to see who's going to win before they came on the winning side. And it's still the same today. So you don't think about that. There are many Èzili Dantos. There are many Bayyinah Bellos. It's just that we don't see them because the structure is not going to elevate them. For me to be here and Bayyinah to be here, it took a lot of sacrifice, personal sacrifice, and self-confidence, because the system destroys you. So my answer is that we are free. We are free Haiti. We exist. If you come into my platform, you will see Haiti's riches, not Haiti's poverty. You will see Haiti's beautiful culture, not Haiti's corruption. And if that's what you want to elevate, that's what my platform does.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So if I take the gist of your question is, can we in a lifetime see the freedom that those who went before us worked at? Yes. Yes. Condition. What will be your contribution? How are you working at freeing yourself? That's the only thing. Yes. Ezili is right when she says just one, but we don't know which one. So all of us have to work. Are you working at becoming free? Not at bringing freedom to 1 million. Are you working at becoming free? Do you work to free you, the person next to you, the one right next to you? Or do you apply colonial attitudes, dog eat dog, take all for you? Do you apply this, or do you do what free people do? Jean-Jacques Dessalines said, every citizen of Haiti is a Black person. He does not care what you look like. So everybody's, what are you saying? You're saying this person with blue eyes, blonde hair is a Black man? Yes. But what is a Black man? Black man is a person, a Black woman is a person who works towards freedom. Do you work towards freedom? And until you can free yourself, you cannot talk about freeing anybody else. You have to free yourself first. That's number one. You have to know yourself first. That's number one. You have to love yourself first. Then you can love me. If you don't love yourself, you say you love me, but you don't. Because in order for you to know love, you must love yourself. So, respect to each other, and constantly having, remember our poem, freedom, in constant pursuit. That's the key. That's the conclusion. In constant pursuit. What often happens, what have we seen so far? And please remember, all that we have read about Dessalines, about Marcus Garvey, about Sankara, about anyone, Lumumba, is their narrative. We do not have 90% of the story is probably missing. So even though, yes, we go with what we have, but never limit yourself at what we have. So that's what we know for now. Every day we're finding out more and more about so many lies. No later than yesterday, I was reading again another article that talks about the lies in geography. How they have us think, me, the lie that I always use in my classroom. I like to make my students say, okay, what is a continent? A continent is a large mass of land surrounded by water. Very good. How many continents are there? There are 5 continents or 7, depending on where you went to school. If you went to the US, they'll say 7 continents. If you went to school from the Euro-Christian stuff, then you'll say 5 continents. Okay, list them. Europe, I said, that's a lie. Look at the map. You just said a continent is a large mass of land surrounded by water. That's their definition. And yet, they give you a map where if you just use your own eyes, you will see that Europe is not a continent. That's a lie. So if it's this easy to even, that's just a little bit. They lied about the dimensions. They lied about the sizes of the various continents, which is the largest, they lied about it all. So we can't trust the biographies we have about ourselves. And that's part of becoming free, getting your own story. And that's what we're working at. The absence of women in any history of any country, as they tell you in English, it is his story, history. That's what they call it. His story, story of man. The women are not part of it. Very often, it's just a story of high-grade, high-ranked military men. Civilians are not part of it. So there's a lot of story missing in the stuff they give to us as history. So remember what we always say here, question everything. Question opens the way to knowledge. Everything you swallow, you don't know. So yes, we are on the path to freedom. Yes, we need each and every soldier that is listening to us today. And those who listened last week, who listened 2 months ago, 2 years ago, and those who will listen 5 years from now. We must have a purpose, freedom. And the first person that you must free is yourself. Free yourself, and then you'll be surprised You'll be surprised to see that the whole world did the same thing you were doing. And here we are. Because this is a new day. See, they might have planned that sickness in the way that they planned it, but it's not working out the way they planned it. So use this time, use the opportunities, build yourself, prepare your heart, prepare your mind, free yourself. And then all of us will be free people right out there. So it's not gonna be a lifetime. I'm 72 and I know that I will see the IT I know to be. So if I'm gonna see it, it's a very short time coming. But we need every single one of you. Get to work, free your minds, free your heart, and get to work on freedom. Freedom is the priority. Thank you very much. We've taken that was one question and it took all this time. I'm sorry, let's try to shorten up the answers.
Those are some great answers though. Thank you very much for that, for sharing. Okay, so yes, we have a lot of questions to go. So next question comes from Nayasha Maleko. You could go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question, please.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Hi, how are you? Jumbo, Hotep.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm fine. I'm gonna be quick. My question was about sexism. I have a problem. Okay, the first thing is I'm not that knowledgeable about ancient African role of the Black woman, so be patient with me. My question was that the word sexism, I always think of the white woman. How can I fight for women's rights and still not dismiss the pain of the Black man, but the pain of little Black boys who also get abused and raped? Because sometimes I feel when I go out there and fight for Black feminists, it doesn't make me feel comfortable.
That's why the objective is freedom. If we fight for freedom, then the child, the man, the male, everybody will be free. The older, the elder, the youngest, everybody will have justice. Freedom is what we should fight for.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Would you like to add to that, Ezili?
You said you had many questions, sir.
I do have a lot of questions. Okay.
Go on.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. Thank you, Nyasha, for your question. Let's see. Next, let's go to RC. RC, you could go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please. RC, are you there? RC going once. RC going twice. Okay. Oh, you just unmuted. You there?
Yes, I have my question posted in the chat because it was so long.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and speak it then so I don't have to read it.
Okay, so I guess this is for Ms. Dantò. In I think 2016, there was a woman lawyer. I seen her on YouTube asking, well, pretty much she said, if President Trump would get the Clintons out of Haiti, that all of the Haitians would vote him in. Was that Ms. Dantò, or was that someone else? I just wanted to know because it's been a long time since I've seen that video. I didn't know who the person was. And then the other question I had was, I don't know if she knows anything about Hillary Clinton. She's supposed to be going to be testifying on September 9th, I believe, 2020 on, I don't know everything about what she's going to be having to be asked, but I do know that some of the stuff that was in some laptop that she had access to, and then she deleted certain emails that could possibly trace her to trafficking of children and people. So the other question is, do you feel like Trump or politics is changing a little bit, or is it still the same thing, business as usual, in a different form?
Thank you for the question. I think it might have been me that you saw. As a strategist, when I look at the duopoly back in 2016, we had just came out of the earthquake where $13.3 billion was squandered in the name of dead and injured Haitian people. I spent a lot of time in that space talking about weaponized charity and how the new missionaries were using it to take control of Haiti. And so, yes, I did say that if there's going to be a revolution, and since I'm here for the revolution, I really don't want to see a white liberal who's going to, like the Clintons, come into my face and tell me how much they love me while they're disemboweling me and giving me Michel Martelly as my president, while they're taking 30% of our lands, which they did through a lot of contracts in the north, while they're taking Montrose and a lot of the shorelines, and while they're having their boy, Michel Martelly, put out decrees to make all of Haiti's islands tourist spaces for the Bill and Hillary Clinton cronies. So at that time, I said that if I'm in a room with two wolves and one is dripping and even has the head of my child in her mouth. And the other one's just talking, and doesn't have 30 years of destruction in IT. And I was into, because I stopped voting after my first vote for Obama, and I was into the lesser evil. I said, if I had those two choices, and I was into because I'm not into evil at all, so I don't do it right now. But I said, if I'm into evil and choosing the lesser or the greater, and the circumstances that I've lived, Mrs. Clinton has brought slave markets to Libya. Under Obama, we have the explosion of AFRICOM, and they use our naivety and gullibility to use Obama to destroy a lot of nations. And he essentially gave Mrs. Clinton to IT in order to get his major political folks out of the way. So I did say, and I do say till this day, that if there's a lesser or greater evil in 2016, it was Donald Trump, because Donald Trump did not have a history of killing my children in the manner of having state power the way Mrs. Clinton and the Clintons had. And certainly he had nothing to do with absconding with the earthquake and then covering up cholera and allowing almost 30,000 Haitians to just die. So I did say that. Today, will Hillary Clinton testify, and will that testimony in any way change life for my children? I think that if there's going to be freedom for Black women's children, it's the Black woman and male who has to bring that freedom. I think that American politics, American colonialism, US Western domination plays two roles. And you have to be, I teach this, and it's really critical. In Free Haiti movement, we teach that they play hero and villain. Okay? So they will interchange those roles and confuse people because they own the media, right? So for instance, when I was representing President Aristide, it was Bush the first, father, Papa Bush, who took him out. He was a CIA agent, came from all of that. And then Bill Clinton supposedly brought him back. They play both roles. At the end of the day, they're only taking care of their own business, because what Bill Clinton did was re-image the Duvalierists as George Soros civil society. So I've seen this, I've experienced it. And until there are more of us creating a different world, I call the world we're living in is the bringers of doom world. And there is a template, because we are now in the season of Boakaima. And as I said, you know, this is the summer solstice. Once the summer solstice starts, we begin the Boakaima all the way up to August 14th and on to the 22nd. This is the highest peak for melanated people. We are connected to the biosphere. Our pineal gland is connected to the sun. It's the only reason we didn't die as many with respect to the cholera that came into Haiti. And it is because we are original to this planet, and the very earth gives us the electricity and what we need, that we are still here. I think that if you are part of the voting public, I don't think to vote is going to give us our freedom. No. However, if you're still there and that's your consciousness, what I say is that one of the things I learned doing Haiti work is that all these white men were the ones talking for IT. All these white women were talking for IT. And I think that once I came into that space, I realized that they were as detrimental to us as the ones that they were supposedly talking against. For instance, Paul Farmer, because I give the names because we have to name that which destroys our children. So Bill Clinton, Paul Farmer, these people have what I call weaponized charity. They tell you they have come to save you from their own white folks who have destroyed you. So I tell them, go to Washington and stop him, and I'll take care of my own people. That's my answer. I don't think that anything's going to happen to Mrs. Clinton. I think it's going to be for show because of the elections coming up. And it's going to get, I also think, I'm predicting that Donald Trump will win again. Donald Trump is a trickster. And I have a poem called The African Trickster. And you guys can find it in my, on my website. The trickster is put out there to rile you up, to eat up all your attention. But in the back, they're both doing the same thing. Him and Pelosi are the same people. But they rile you up because your energy and your attention feed this evil vibration. And they understand that. We still don't understand it. So I think that he probably, unless something happens intervening from what I see now, I believe that the demon rats knew when they chose Joe Biden that he was the same thing as Obama, which people rejected when they didn't take Mrs. Clinton. And so they picked him because they wanted to lose. And they like this position of acting righteous. And like they got to get rid of Trump, but it's a game. And you have to be ahead of the game, on top of the game by 10,000 steps. And you should be, because Dessalines, Bookman, Grantoya, and the armies of the Incas left us the Bwakaima call. And it was in the Kinkanga language of Queen Nzinga. And essentially, for 26 years now, I've been putting it out, looking for echoes, right? And I hear more and more of those echoes these days. So essentially, we have to stop Mandalele, which is the stranger that came into our territory after years of being here. We have to stop the Bafioti, which is the Black collaborators, and you know who they are. You see them. And then all his forces, like Dr. Henry Clark, my favorite historian, says, there is nothing the European ever came up with is in his mind that wasn't about domination. Once you understand that, then you know what you are and what you have to bring forth.
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Yes. So hopefully you are happy with that answer. I was. Okay. Next question comes from Marie Cajou. Marie, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, my name is Marie. So my question is for Madame Èzili Danto. My question is like mostly personal, but not very personal actually. So my question is, because you have a very bold stance in everything that you do and everything that you say, how do you deal with making mistakes and fears in the public space?
Would you kindly say that one more time for me, please? Because I have?
Because you have a very bold stance in everything that you do and everything that you say. How do you deal with making mistakes and fears in the public?
Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I have a piece. I'm sorry to go back to my own self with that, but when I am wholly strong and I am wholly vulnerable.
Beautiful answer.
Okay.
Mistake is part of being human. You have to assume that you will make them. And then you will do your best with your strength to correct them.
There you go. I love it. Okay, next question. I love the short answers too, like the short and to the point, because we could get to the next question. All right, let's see. Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald, you could go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question, please.
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, my first question is, I was hearing from a friend of mine in Haiti that that right now in Haitian voodoo, Haitians no longer worship the Guinea spirit. They do like what you call sorcery. So I wanted more insight into that. My second question is, what you think about? Yeah, my second question is what you think about Jamaica and Guyana and a lot of islands having direct flights to Africa, but Haiti not having direct flights to Africa as yet. And Jovenel's new decree, that's actually making a lot of like Jovenel's new decree. That's actually making a lot of how would I say? A lot of like parlant pile in Haiti, like a lot of I mean, you know what I mean though.
Mm-hmm.
That's for both Ezili and Bayyinah.
That's about 4 questions, if I counted properly.
No, three.
So you want to go first?
Madam, if it's your
All
show,
right.
let me know.
Okay. So the short answer is every general statement, blanket general statement like that is false. That Haitian don't worship Guinea and Haitian do worship Santa. Please, come on. Okay. Certainly there are people who are doing other things, but the large majority of Haitians don't know any other way but Guinea. As a family thing, as a regional thing, as a very local thing, it's all Guinea. So yes, there are others who are doing other things.
Yeah, I think Mama Bayyinah just answered the question. Bayyinah said something that's critically important. She said that, Dessalines' narrative was Dessalines' narrative. Sankara's narrative was Sankara's narrative. This Èzili Dantò of Free Haiti, my narrative, there's things that I saw in Vodun that did not represent me. For instance, right? The woman doesn't speak. I was like, I went to a ceremony and that did not fit into what I am. So I gave Ezili her voice back. And I want to be remembered for giving Ezili her voice back. Because how the hell can you actually create a vibration and then personify that vibration and somehow tell me that during the revolution, her tongue was cut out? What? What? Okay, so there are things in Vodun that we're going to have to give flesh and memberment to. I give flesh and memberment to Ezili's voice. Hopefully, there are other things. For instance, when I go into a parastir, and I see a picture of the Virgin Mary, I know that's not no Ezili, and I ask them to please remove it. Whatever the reason is, and whoever those Jesuits were that went in and started to change it, or whether you're looking at Maya Deren and her books, that's not the Vodun of my ancestors. You see, I remember reading those books. For instance, the Divine Horseman. I remember throwing that book across the room. I was so mad because when she had, the law came down, which is when you are quickened by the spirit of your ancestors, she called it, I think, white something. I'm like, what? She called it, no, she said it was, and so that was a European mind giving voice to an African divinity. So I've been in many, many, many rooms where there are white mumbos who believe they're mumbos because they married a Unga or had sex with an Unga. It goes to this last question that you just posed about Jovenel's decree. One of the reasons I created Free Haiti is because, you know, as Dr. Marimba Ani, one of my sheroes, said, you know, our culture is our sword. So when in 2004, France came back and laid their foot on Dessalines' land, they called up Èzili Dantò, and I answered, you see? And since that day to today, we have 6 events every year, and it's to lift up our culture. Not our culture as, you know, I interpret it, okay? We're not monolithic. There's gonna be somebody else that's going to be fine with Ezili not talking. It's not this woman. You see, there's gonna be people who are going to tell you that patriarchy, you know, children, it's okay for children. I mean, Jovenel's decree that you're talking about, essentially, as a lawyer, I can tell you, okay, if the law was actually operative, he cannot change the statutes by a decree. He's gone outside of his authority if there was law, but we're living in an era of might makes right. You see? If the law was operative, the man would not be sitting at the National Palace because he was put in by a Digicel vote, right? So if the law was operative, the law is not operative. He is put in by our enemies. And who does our enemies have to destroy? Our future. So, okay, tell a child of 15 that the number one thing besides she's hungry, not educated, don't have a place to live, but what he sees to do is make pedophilia legal. Who does that? You have to go back to the core group and who they are and what pederasty is, and go back all the way to the Romans. Then you know who you're dealing with. And now that they have control of Haiti, they can bring any old West avec, but that doesn't represent Black excellence. Bayyinah Bello represents Black excellence. Èzili Dantò tries to represent Black excellence. France, that's what we represent. That's who we are. We know this is not us. This decree that makes this important, that makes this legal, incest, bestiality, and pedophilia, I only know that comes from evil. And I only know, and I want to say her name, that white woman named Michelle Sisson at the US Embassy and La Lime. You see, because during the civil rights movement, these people wanted to be minorities so then they can get these jobs. But it was our brothers and sisters who fought for them to even have positions. And then they use the position as the same good old boys. Well, I have a poem, of course, about Miss Korea white women and what they do to our people. And always remember, all right, Michelle Sisson represents that migrated power from back in the day in old Dixie. 40% of the slave owners were white women. So this is what they're doing. I think your last question about Jamaica, I didn't really understand it about a direct place in Africa. But
Direct
Not
flight.
direct flights.
Direct flights.
oh, direct flights.
Mhm.
Oh, I see. I don't know. Bayyinah, why don't you answer that?
No, there's no answer to that. That's not the, if we're not making up laws that are in the interest of our people, and we're not running a country in the interest of the people, then what about direct flights to Africa? So what? Okay. You have to be in a certain. We have to look at things, but there's a good thing to there's a good side to everything. It's a good thing. He did a decree. A decree can be erased in a moment by a real government. So it's not a law. Thank goodness for that.
Awesome. All right, man, I'm loving this show. Okay. All right, next. Okay, guys, this 2:56 p.m. We have 4 minutes and we have 10 more questions. So you guys do the math. All right. So quick questions, one question, and hopefully Ezili, our guest, could extend a few more moments of her time to see if we could get most of our questions answered this afternoon. So
I'm good.
Okay, great. Okay, so as always, we reached the lightning round, the lightning question round. So one question, please. Okay, next is Lynn Mizier. You could go ahead and unmute and ask a question, please.
Hi, oh my God. Hello. I had 2 questions, but you said 1 question, so I'm gonna pick the one, I guess, that I'm least able to answer myself, because most likely I have the answer for the other one, but I'm just not giving myself enough, you know what I mean. So as a diaspora, how do we take what we've learned in this country and implement it to stabilize our own country? So, and I'm not talking about ideologies per se or education. I'm talking about skills, not the mechanisms like that I've internalized in this country and am actively working to let go of, but I'm talking about skills. Like, I went to school, I got a degree in anthropology here. There are certain things I'm learning about politics, about communication with people, about infrastructure, about creating certain things. So how do I use what I have to stabilize my country, but while also filtering out the mechanisms that have been instilled in me to forget self? Because I don't want to inherit that savior complex of, disintegrating the value of my own roots, but also it's something that I'm learning to filter out with being in this country for so long.
Well, the short answer, work on self. Till you work on self and free yourself. Once you become free, you see, one of the most powerful example that Dessalines traced, after they chose him to lead the country after the war, he said, "Oh, you're asking me to, I'm already an old man and you're asking me this big job, blah, blah, blah," etc. So anyway, he took off his boots, took off his socks, and says, in order to know where to place the capital city of the country, he must walk bare feet on the land, so the land will tell him where to place it. And sure enough, the man walked for weeks and then placed the capital city to what is today known as the city of Dessalines, but then was the imperial capital in the Artibonite area. Of course, after slaughtering him, they brought the capital back to Port-au-Prince, which the Lois usually refer to as Port of Crimes.
I feel you, and I've been in your position. I think that you have to understand that if you're looking to have a career in IT, you're going to be part of what's wrong with IT. See, because the whole structure is made for just simple things, right? The whole structure is made so that the stranger gets paid higher than the local person. no matter how much degree the local person has. So if you go in, you're going to be part of the problem, which is why I never took a position in Haiti. And even when I was represented Aristide, you know, it wasn't for money. So for me, and that's something that not many people can do, because there's a sacrifice. There's a sacrifice to going and using your skills in a way that is harmonious and needed. And the only way you can do that, I think, is by having a grounding. Like, say, I used to say to the Diaspora with the Haitian Lawyers Leadership Network, go back to your village and do one thing there. Make it small and then see what it is that's necessary. And then become whatever it is. Because what we need in IT is manufacturing. We need to produce everything. We don't need anything imported. So you have to be able to produce something that's there, and then teach, perhaps. I don't know as an anthropologist what it is, but you have to figure that out. But we need to produce in IT. We need to be the exemplars of production in IT. And we can't compete with the local Haitian or act the same way as the Blanc and go work for USAID and make money and then say we're freeing our country. Mm-hmm. Just gonna be Gary Corneille or Mateli or something. You just end up just like that.
Right. And we could see the resonance with last week's guest, Nejin, how she told us she went in and let the old people teach her. And so they would turn her into what she needed to be in order to create what she wanted to create.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I know this is I know time is not on our side right now, but I really feel I'm moving to ask the next question. I'm sorry, I know, but can I please ask it? Like, please.
Put it in the chat.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. No problem. Okay. Next question comes from Rose. Rose, you could go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Greetings, everyone.
Greetings.
Hi. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. I just learned that the Haitian capital is Atibonite, where I'm from. So that's amazing. And also, how do you know what your met-tet is? Because in this conversation today, it resonated with me so much that I want to know who my met-tet is. Because growing up, it was a taboo thing. Because, you know, you grew up going to Catholic school or Catholic church, and this subject was taboo. But as a grown woman who's stepping into consciousness, you learn the things that they not necessarily been keeping from you, but not teaching you is what you actually need in order to ascend to who you are supposed to be. Like, how do you know? Because, you know, nothing is rushed. Everything comes in due time. But if I was taught this, like I'm teaching my sons now, their ascension more or less would be more accessible because I'm putting in the foundation work. So how do you know what your met-tet is? And
send your question through the email, bayyinahbello@fondationfelicite.com.
Oh, can I
exchange.
Yes. You were reading a poem and about the I am, and I actually wrote a poem about the I am too. So I'm gonna send it in my 2-page paragraph. I really wanted to share it with you because it's so on point to what you said. But my main question was, how do I find out who my met-tet is?
You know what it is. Like, are you a healer? Are you a nurturer? Are you a grower? Are you like, what is it like at your earliest time that resonated with you? And then study the various laws, and then you will know which one resonates with you. You know, Are you an artist? Are you Simbi? You will know.
Okay, because I did some studying.
What do you think you are? Which one do you think you are?
I don't. Okay, so I went into this thing called Sacred Woman, and I felt, well, that I learned that I closely to myself feel like I am Ma'at, but I don't know what Ma'at is.
It means justice. Justice. It's the female energy of justice. Why don't you just study that a little bit?
Okay.
That's Ezili, the female energy of justice. Beauty, femininity, all of that is in there also.
Okay. Okay.
There you go, Rose. So you have some homework to do. But then also you could go ahead and email Ma Bello, and she'll definitely help you with your answers.
Yes, I screenshotted her email.
All right. All right. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for your question.
All right.
All right. Next question comes from Jean Chirac. You can go ahead and unmute, ask your question, please. Or is it Chirac? Jean Chirac. Going once.
It's actually Jean Chirac, you know, the name of the colonizer. So the question I wanted to ask is, how come the law who actually inspired our revolution, you know, can be called by people that don't look like us? Like, for instance, when you go to New Orleans, you see these people who don't look like us. Their ancestors probably enchained our ancestors, but they still have the same ability to call upon our law, the law who actually free Haiti. That's my question.
You are stuck in appearances. Remember I told you earlier, it's about Blackness is about your ability to bring freedom. So you could be jet black and love slavery, whether as a slaver or as an enslaved. Whichever way, whichever end you take, you're still not Black. If you're Black, freedom is your primary objective for yourself and for everyone around you. So spirit don't look at what color your eyes are, okay? So inheritance and tradition comes from whatever somebody did. Some of our people, or people that would be labeled as Black, may not look like us at all. Do you reject this person?
Do I reject this person?
Uh-huh.
No, not at all.
That's not the point. You see, no matter what the person looks like, it's not what spirit is going to look at. It's going to look at what you do.
Okay.
Okay?
How you is good
when it comes to freedom.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, I actually have a different sort of answer because I know and I've lived cultural appropriation, and it's part of colonization, and it exists. So I do see at various places. Obviously, New Orleans is different in America because it was a French territory, and the biggest mambo there, Marie Laveau, Haiti. Obviously, you know, you all know that American jazz comes from Ibole, comes from Vodun. So we have a lot to do with a lot of the culture in New Orleans, the second line and so on. But I have lived and know that sometimes it is other races who find our culture more, they have more luxury to study it than the Haitian sometimes. Sometimes the Haitian will not let their children learn how to play the drums or go to dance class or do those things because they are told that, you know, the value is about profit and making money. And so we are losing a lot of the authenticity of connection to through a lot of cultural appropriation. And that cultural appropriation is dangerous, but that's what colonization is. And I do see it a lot. The only thing I can say to you is that what you see is you need to become the solution to it, because it is you that sees it. So you need to become, whereas someone else might not see that, what you see, your spirit is telling you something, you need to become the solution to that.
Yes.
All right.
That is very good.
Identify as a problem, you must be the solution. Yes, I absolutely agree.
All right, thank you for the answers. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Shirak. All right, next question is Barbara Dominique. How you doing, Barbara?
Hi, how are you?
Doing great.
First, let me say, Madam Ezili is the perfect embodiment of everything I stand for, and I'm so grateful to be here. I didn't even sign up for this, and I had to beg because my husband said, "This woman looks like she's you." I am so grateful to be in this life because it proves my husband wrong. He swears they're gonna kill me when I move to Haiti, and I want him to know there's somebody well alive that is just like me. What I wanted to ask was that there is going to be a reenactment of the Bois Kaimambo Kaima. And I wanted to ask about what you thought about that. And I know that the energies are going to be aligned. And do you think it will have some type of resonation with our ancestors, as far as what I know that we have been so unaligned lately with our ancestors and the way it is, and also to the young man's question where you have to differentiate between what is ancestors and Racine Guinea versus what people buy, because that is something that is very real in our culture now. But also, do you believe
I don't get it.
that,
That is my question. I don't understand.
do you believe that that the reenactment will be something that will resonate with the ancestors?
I think anytime we honor the ancestors, it brings into reality what we are. So I have I've been doing the Bois Kaima reenactment for a long time. I have a play, and so when I need help, I make a call, knowing that I'm making a call today I read some Maurice Sixto, one of my favorite Haitian authors. He said, "Bon Dieu, c'est moi-même," right? So when you're reenacting, essentially, remember, right? I mean, people have different visions about what this means. What Dambala is,
Yeah.
what Yanvalu is, right? For me, it's your DNA, it's movement. And so for me, you are making that movement to recall who you are. So you're reenacting, calling the ancestors is calling you, lifting up and trying to open up the knowledge that you have, because there's an army behind you. When you walk into a room, the oldest people on the planet is your ancestors. And then Giton and Toya, you call on those, and that's the strength that you're looking for. And how do you continue so that once that ceremony and ritual is over, you can maintain that spirit? It's that one pointedness, that focus, right? Bon Dieu, like Bon Dieu pa ka wè mal fikte. That's one of my lines at the end of the Bois Kaima call, right? So you have to be able to see what it is that you want, see what it is that the ancestors are, and then because you are the ancestors, nous fè yon sel corps. that reenactment, because I made that call a long time ago and I know they answered. That's why, like Bayyinah, I know Haiti is free. So to get there though, like I said, you have to be one-pointed, and that requires discipline.
A lot of discipline.
Yes, I know for sure that is one of my Bello's favorite words, is discipline. And if you have Sheroes of the Haitian Revolution, she probably inscribed discipline in that book for you. So thank you, Barbara, for your question. Next, let's see, we're down to 10 questions.
What?
More people.
I apologize, Francis, because my phone kept knocking me out at like almost 10 times, and I just lost place in line. That's why I came on, but I'll ask my question by email if necessary.
Okay, just hold on tight. Hold on tight. Okay, next question comes from Soshina. Soshina, you could go ahead and unmute and ask a question, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is an honor for me to be in this chat. I am not of Haitian descent, but I have a little beautiful sister that is Haitian. And so for me, it is very important to connect her to her heritage. And considering the times and the world that we currently live in, I wanted to gift her that legacy, because I think it's very important for her to identify with who she is. I am of Caribbean descent. I'm from St. Martin. Our stories and histories are very similar because we come from one line of heritage. And I wanted to find out what I can do on my part to ensure that from a very early age, she is prepared and enriched with her culture, spiritually, socially, politically, whatever is required. I know she's very young, she's only 2 years old, but it is important for me to commence that teaching and guidance for her, especially for me, since coming back from Europe, I have lost it in myself. I was more active as a Pan-Africanist in Europe than I am now in my own country since moving back 5 years ago. And I am afraid that because I am feeling like I'm disconnected to that fight, to that holding on to my battle for freedom, self-expression as a Black Caribbean woman, I don't want her to go through that as well. So I want to prepare her. What do you advise either to Bello or to Èzili Danto that I can do for my sister and prepare her along her path?
Read Franz's book that Bello has written.
Okay.
Franz's book that I've written? Oh no, I did not write Franz's book. I'm sorry.
It's published.
What is the title of that book, please? Or can you send it in the email in the chat, and I will be happy to have a read through that. And can you also speak to losing? I don't know how to express it, but I found I was more active for the cause of my people and myself as a Black woman in Europe. I lived there for 17 years, and now coming back, I've completely lost my orientation to reconnect to my ancestors, my ancestry, my heritage.
So actually, I would say, number one, you need to build yourself. So learn to know yourself.
Yes.
Before you know yourself, you cannot teach someone else. You have to really make the effort to come to know yourself. That's step number one. Certainly there are books that you can read to a 2-year-old, but that's a little bit more complicated. Okay.
Yes.
So, but you will read the books and then find elements in the book that you could share with the 2-year-old. Yes. So that would be, one element. And then my email is there, right? And then we'll see what we could do together.
Thank you.
Help the young lady grow into a beautiful warrior for our freedom.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me say something else. You started out saying you're not Haitian. That's a lie. How would you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Remember-
resonate very much with the culture even before my sister. I've always been curious, asked questions, and understood it, but I never really dug into it very much.
A, you are here. No, actually, A, you have that little Haitian girl that you're raising.
Yeah.
B, you are here. That's two elements. That's already identify you. And three, you want our people's freedom. So obviously, you're an Haitian woman.
Ashe. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, thank you, Soshina. Appreciate
I
it.
want Soshina to also breathe. Breathe, Soshina, very deeply. I can feel you from here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very true.
I can feel you from here, my sister. Breathe. Let it all go.
Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yes, take 10 deep breaths, and then you can email Bayyinah.
Bravo.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next question. Okay, yeah, Terrain. Terrain, you could go ahead, unmute, ask a question, please. We are deep into overtime.
Hello there. Thanks for having me. My quick question is, how do you respond to Black people who say, why are we blaming Europeans for slavery when Blacks sold Blacks into slavery? What's your general response to those people?
I'm sorry, did you just say, how do we respond to people who say that Blacks are responsible for slavery? Is that what you're saying? Is that your question?
So my question was, how do you respond to other Black people who say, why are we putting all the blame on Europeans for slavery when Blacks sold Blacks into slavery also?
Yes, I can answer that question. I think one of the defenses of white supremacy is what you just said. And because I know it's a defense of white supremacy, it's always the gangs in Haiti or the gangs in America that's responsible for the problem of the whole entire race of Black people. So they always find that part of us that they can point to and say this, when in fact, Black folks did not, of course there's slavery in the Arab states, but in terms of like actually making a profit over people, that is not innately who we are. That was innately who the Mandela is. And I think for me as a lawyer, I am constantly finding this defense. It's always the victim. You know, if you study, for instance, Paola, pedagogy of the oppressed, it's always about the victim, like taking it back into the victim. I always refuse that. And I'm going to tell you right now, I refuse that. I refuse because I know, for instance, in Haiti, when the Bafiote got here to Haiti, there were always Black opportunists who were used and who can be paid for. But they did not create the system of the triangular trade. They were the employers, the employees. So just like someone will never be able to blame me for Michel Martelly or Jovenel Moïse, right? Because they are the modern day slave makers in Haiti. But if you look, Haitians did not put them there. That's number one. Number two, I want to say that the Black collaborators exist, and we have a formula that says that we need to get rid of them. And it was, to me, Dessalines' big mistake, allowing collaborators who came in Leclerc's ship to have equal footing with him in this new experiment. And I know for a fact that those who study the Haitian Revolution understand that we have to focus on the Black collaborators, just like Cuba did, because if Cuba had left the elites in their country, they would not still be a country about their own self-interest and national interest. So yes, there is Black collaborators, and those Black collaborators are educated and rewarded by our enemies. However, in Haiti, when we met the Bafiotis, when they met the enslaved, we created a space for them to redeem themselves. So they can be redeemed.
Thank you so much.
I will say something very, very short, I hope. Number one, show me where Africans advertised in Europe asking Europeans to come and buy Africans. Number two, show me where we built thousands of boats to bring them back and forth. Number three, show me where we created the contracts to do the deals, okay? And number four, when you know enough of our history, you will see that every time the Euro-Christians arrived in Africa and they met with a king like King Ansa, who wouldn't allow them to do what they wanted to do, they turned around in circles in that area for 20, 30 years until Ansa died, until they could manipulate who would be the puppet that would go to replace Ansa. Sometimes they would have, there's one thing they do have, they can wait. They are not in a hurry and they do not lose track of their objectives. So even if it took them 50 years, like with King Alfonso, even if they had to kidnap the children of the king to make the king participate, they would use every single element that they wanted. And now when they come to tell me, oh yeah, you were in it, I said, please go learn history. Don't talk to me until you do.
Bayyinah, can you do one thing for me? Are you able to spell the name of the king you just mentioned?
Okay, King Ansa, A-N-S-A-H of Ghana, and King Alfonso of Congo, A-F-F-O-N-S-O.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your answers. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go to Stella. Stella Jean, please. Go.
Of course, I failed to mention Queen Nzinga.
I was gonna say.
Age 83.
How long?
Yes. So, please.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you guys. It's an honor to be here. I'm gonna ask a quick question. It's really a question that I'm looking for the answer to. If I know voodoo is powerful, I'm learning about it. Even though I was raised Catholic, it never resonated with me. As I'm getting older, I feel more of a calling to go back to my roots and my ancestors. My question is, as powerful as voodoo is, and as powerful of a people that we are, and we were in Africa, how was slavery possible? Where were our ancestors? Where were these forces that we connect to, that we are? Like, how was that even possible?
Okay, let me give you a short answer. What they usually don't tell you in their version, their narratives, the first people that are destroyed once they come into a territory are the spiritual people, then the teachers. Once you eliminate those two, or the key people in those two areas, then they will bring in the military that will do the mass killing of people that can, and then once you put the people into panic, when suddenly we were living here for 200 years, we had the life that we wanted, and then suddenly we all running into the forest or the river, we went on the mountain. When do you build? When do you construct? When do you see? So you have to get the right picture. But they come in, generally, missionaries come in first, identify the spiritual people, and then kill them slowly, one by one, two by three, whichever, then the teachers are eliminated. And that's why we got to situations in Africa, for example, when most of the, okay, you can't be a great architect if you don't have high spirit knowledge, spiritual knowledge. You cannot be a great mathematician. You cannot be a great doctor. Because spirituality is not something that was on the side. It's part of everything that we are. So once you identify the key people and you were able to eliminate those, then the rest of the society was really, you know, we were in situations where you couldn't even have somebody who could properly build certain structures because the most important folks were eliminated or taken away.
But with such great power, how are they able to eliminate them?
1,400 years of being aggressed. That's actually what we have to look at. It's not 400 years, 500 years. You have to look at the years of the Hiscos, the years of the Asians, the years of the, you know, so altogether for 1,400 years, Africans have been harassed, have been made to run and hide. So when you go into this kind of structure, same thing in Haiti, you can see it. Haiti is a perfect picture. 1804, we become independent, right? 1860, the church comes in and the whole world is against our independence. Nobody recognizes Haiti's independence. So it's Haiti against the world. So imagine what that means, what kind of energy you're spending just to stay alive and to stay free. Now in 1860, the Vatican comes in with an agreement that you have to sign, the Concordat. And in Article 12, it states that you give to the church the monopoly of public instructions. You know what that means? From this point on, the church is going to create a school and a church that is going to de-Haitianize the Haitian people. Everything that is yours is no good, is wicked, is bad, is this, is that, and only their stuff is God's stuff. So from 1860 to today, imagine the damage that is done from year to year, from generation to generation. Normally, we should have disappeared. Normally, the word voodoo shouldn't even be used anymore. But we are so resilient and so resistant. Now, in the 60s, the UN came into Haiti and with money, drained away the intelligentsia of Haiti. Everybody went to work in Europe, in Canada, in Africa, everybody had big contracts. You know, you're making peanuts in Haiti, of course. And they come in with big contracts, so lots of people went away. Often you replace somebody like Pompilus, who has 2 PhDs, or Parnell-Mark, who has 7 PhDs in chemistry, in astronomy, blah, 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 who speaks 16 languages. He is taken away from his chair, from teaching, and he's replaced by a high school student. So what do you think is gonna happen to your educational system? Even in the 60s, Haitians would come here with a high school diploma and enter in a 2nd or 3rd year of college. Today, that's not the case, okay? So as we went through all of this, 1960, so the UN comes in and find we had too many intellectuals and take about 60% of our intellectuals out of the country. Then in the 1980s, we have the killing of the pig. The pig represented the peasant's bank. Everybody planned the child's my daughter's getting married, this will be the pig that I will kill for the reception. This will be to put the children in school in September, those will be the pig well, the US come in with a program that said, to protect US pigs in Texas, they have to kill every pig in Haiti. You know what that meant? So they thought we were too rich even then, while all their stuff talk about, you know. Now I'm not talking about all the diseases they brought into the country, all the epidemics they brought into the country. And the last one, this thing here, that the World Health Organization declared in March that Haiti would have minimum 30 to 15,000 dead. Well, do you know now? And they pushed it up in April, they pushed it in May. And do you know how many we have now? We still have less than 200, but they're still trying. They're still sending contaminated people to us, but still we resist. Biologically, spiritually, intellectually, we resist. That's who we are. So no matter how damaged we may look, okay? Even Voodoo has been affected by many things that are not it, but that's not the important thing. The essence is still there. And if you educate yourself and grab hold to your essence, then you will be able to bring back the strength. So right now we're going through the pendulum, the bottom things. And you know what they say, when you're at the bottom, there's no way for you to go but up. So become yourself, assume who you are, and let us rise.
Oh my goodness. I wish I could say what Bayyinah just said. I used to be able to say that. I see evil very, very directly. And I'm not sure I know the answer to what you're saying, but I've had those same questions. And I've come up based on everything I know with this answer. I don't think they're human. And I think we're human. And I think humans have empathy. And there are some people in this world that can't feel your pain. As a matter of fact, they live off your pain, your agony. And I think that Black folks still don't understand that. And so we think they're like us. So they must feel like us. They must understand you can't do this to a child. You can't rape and sodomize a 6-year-old. You can't do this, institutionalize it, right? So for me, I've come to this tentative conclusion. Everything Mama Bayyinah just said is correct. Tyranny has been very, very, very intense against us for centuries upon centuries and centuries, and they kill your teachers and your spirituals. But I also think there's something about our nature that lended itself to being gullible. Maybe it's because we've been on this earth for so long that our soul is connected to the biosphere, and we understand that life is fractals, so that the micro is the macro. But these evil energies that took over and that takes over the world right now, I think the reason that they're able to do what they do is because not many people can face evil. Like, we prefer suburban amnesia. We prefer to do the grind and just forget it. We prefer not to face the evil and say no to it. And so I think that's part of the thing. I think it's human nature to think that another person bleeds just like you. And I see Black people in Haiti sometimes believing the white savior mythology. And I think, maybe Anakawona, the people of Haiti in the very beginning, they welcomed in these evil people and had no sense of protection from them. And I think we continually make that mistake. We constantly welcome in evil. And then by the time they take everything from us, we're like, oh my God, what happened? So I think that it is foolhardy for any Black person on this planet to give a white person who has power, who are part of the major 13 families in this planet, any benefit of the doubt. We know their history. We know what to expect. As a lawyer, I think that it's kind of up to us now to say, no, I don't do this. I don't trust. And my whole work is about Black liberation, because I know that when we liberate ourselves, we will bring to paradigm a new, that's not profit over people. Right now, profit over people reigns. And it's seductive because it provides you with material comforts. So you never really get to the point of spiritual connection to source. And that is degraded as something that you get in the afterlife. When in reality, the ancestors you're talking about is you. You came to do that liberation and you can't see it because your value system is taught to you. And I just add one more thing. There are 7.5 billion people on this planet. A small, tiny minority rules that through various mechanisms, including the corporation, which they have magnified their numbers beyond 7.5 billion, because corporations live beyond the years of your life. Your corporations own everything. So they have found a way to give human rights to corporations, more human rights. So we have to look at all of the mechanism. And then I go back to one last thing. In this galaxy alone, there are 2,000 Earth-like planets, but we are taught in school that we're the only living beings around here. I think when you look at the larger history of who and what we are, where we came from, what the moon is, what side, you will understand that you are older than anything that's ever been before. And in you lies the answer to that question. And that is not to be gullible. That is to remember self-defense and your history, and to teach it to your children so that they understand when that white savior, that Abrahamic Jesus come to you and tells you that, you know, there's no place for you other than to serve, that you say, no, I am here to do X, Y, and Z. So I think it's our nature in terms of we embrace the stranger, and it's time we stop that. At least at this point, it's time to stop that. We need to embrace each other. We need to look outwards together instead of fighting each other. And once we do that, it's going to happen in a minute. It's already happened in my world, in Bayyinah's world. But understand that the universe is larger. The realms that are on this planet are more than the ones that you see.
Great stuff. Great stuff. All right. Let's see what we have here. Okay, we're down to 4 questions. So let me jump to Francine, and I know Francine was knocked off. So Francine, go ahead and ask a question, please.
Okay. So my question is about myself. When I discovered I was an artist, I was working as a court stenographer for almost 30 years. When I discovered I was an artist at the end of that, I kept drawing like abstract images in blue and brown. And one day I looked at the computer and I was just playing around with the graphics. I wasn't taught anything about graphics. And what came out of that, I asked the image what it wanted to be, kind of like from an indigenous perspective. Like I was talking to my ancestors, like what do you want me to make? And what came out of it was a picture of the twin gods, Nut and Geb. And I suddenly realized I was drawing them the whole time. And so I don't understand this other word that somebody mentioned about a seti or something like that. Like how does that relate to Haitian? My great-great-grandparents were Haitian from New Orleans. I just came to realize that this year, so I really don't understand. I'm like zip about it. That's why I'm on here. I actually came to like Africanize myself, but then I didn't realize that was part of it too. My ancestors drew me here. I don't even know how I got the information, you know, and to find Bayyinah Bello and through France. But anyway, like I don't know the rest of the piece of that. And when I do my art, I'm like very eclectic. I'm across the board. I can be intellectual. I can be healer, I can be all these different things. And I took a test many years ago where the test came out the same way. They said I didn't fit into a category. That's whatever I made up my mind to be, that I would accomplish it. How would that fit? Like, you know, like it for.
Does it have to fit?
No, but I mean.
I mean, really, honestly,
yeah.
You have to sit in who you are.
Well, I guess I was trying to, like, how does that work with, so that's like ancient, how does that work with my Haitian ancestry is what I wanted to try to say. How does that work with Vodun?
You know how you said
You know?
abstract?
Yes, yes.
Spirit speaks sometimes, not sometimes, all the time in abstract.
Right.
You know, and just keep drawing. And then because the thin ray of your conscious attention sometimes can't see different the realm that's coming to you. So you have to you might have to sit with it. But I'm sure Bayyinah has a better answer. So sit with it, go with what's inside, touch your source. It's always right when you touch your source. But does it have a name? I mean, you might be the new Loa, who knows? Does it have a name? I'm sure because everything repeats itself. There is an irreducible essence, many of them that are a part of you. But which one which one is more dominant within you? You know,
I see what you're saying, but I do want to know which is the dominant one and which is the, you know, because that does give me an idea about, you know, more insight into my character, I guess, toward my purpose. You know, to understand like what Bayyinah Bello was saying, my strengths and my weaknesses, I need more, I seek more insight into that so I can fulfill my purpose better.
Francine,
yes.
Once you are in the spirit world, you have no limit, okay? It is because we are in a world that they say, you know, this one is good at running, that one is good at math, this one is blah, 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 this one is literature, that one is this, that one is that. I usually write any history that I'm gonna write, it usually comes out in a poem. Am I gonna think I'm a poet? No, I'm not. But that's my first expression. Even if I was going to write about King so-and-so or Queen so-and-so or chapter 11 of Haiti's history, it comes out in a poem first, all right? I love to sing since maybe the last 10, 15 years, but I can't keep a note. So if you put me in a singing thing, you have a big problem, but yet I sing. So that's not the problem. These are expressions of the various of all of the essence, the spiritual essence of who you are. So don't worry about what is dominant. When the time comes, dominant will be obvious. Mm-hmm. For now, just everything that comes out, express it, practice it, use it. It's an expression. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. But if you're trying to figure out, you know, it's a Euro-Christian thing that you want to put each thing in, you know, math is here, algebra is here, this is not part of that, this is not. Knowledge is not that. In Vodun, knowledge is Aida and Dambala Wedo. It could be expressed as a pair of snakes, or it could be expressed as the, what you call this thing in the sky? Arc-en-ciel. Huh?
Rainbow.
The sun?
Rainbow.
Oh, the rainbow.
The rainbow, which is always in two, just like the snakes is always two, the female and the male. The rainbow is always two up there too. Both of them, if you say Dambalai Aida Wedo, you look up, you're right. If you say Dambalai and Aida, you look at two snakes, you're right. Two expressions of what it means, the entire knowledge, all knowledge. So all of this is in you. So why do you want to split yourself? You want to, you know, don't worry. It's all there. practice whatever is expressing itself. And then one day you'll say, oh,
that's what they said.
This is what this, sometimes you take 30 years, 40 years, 50 years before you say, oh, is that what it is? Yeah. But don't say, I gotta know the dominant here now. Live it, enjoy it, experience it. And then give us some news next year.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Francine. Thank you. And I'll just like to say that I have video and audio evidence that my Bello can keep a note. So,
right. And I'd like to second that.
Yeah.
I heard her sing to Bayyinah the other day. I mean to Edwidge in that space.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You might be on video, so you can't say that. All right. Okay, so we're down to the final 3 questions. Okay, so let's keep it quick. Let's see if we could end before 4 p.m. because my wife and kids are probably looking for me right now. So, all right, Uncle Obia, you go ahead and unmute.
Obia for me. Yes, welcome.
Yes, greetings. Wow, beautiful to be in the presence of 2 warrior queens today, 2 intellectual giants. I tell you, I am loving it on this great day here in England.
We are happy to have you, Ankobia.
Honor and respect.
Yes, likewise. One of the questions I wanted to ask, Sister Ezili, a sister asked it earlier, but I think because there were so many questions coming forward, you wasn't able to pick it up perhaps. So let me see if I can put this correctly. There seems to be an issue within the Black struggle, and that issue is that a lot of Black women have been attacked. Some Black women have been attacked for being part of the feminist movement, where brothers say, look, it's the feminist movement that destroyed the Black family. I think the sister was asking, is it incompatible to be a Pan-Africanist and to also be a feminist, in that, can you be a Pan-Africanist and be a feminist without having to work with white women as well? Because for so long, the struggle has been dominated by men. And yet some of the greatest answers I've ever had, the real practical stuff, has always come from the women in the movement, who come with the real practical, not to say the men don't. I don't want to say that. There's been some wonderful giants of men we've had within the Pan-African movement. But there is also a struggle. There is an issue of patriarchy that never seems to get addressed. And sisters, I've seen some sisters get mistreated badly by key brothers within the movement, who would fight down patriarchy, but yet will never address it in their own behavior, saying that this is a European behavior. It's not something that exists within the movement. So that's a bit of a muddled question, but I hope you can get the drift of what I'm trying to say.
Yes. The thing about me is that I run the Ezili network, and I would say 80% of them are males. So I don't have that problem. But to answer your question about white feminist and whether we have the same agenda, I don't think so. I know we don't. They give birth to the men that are destroying my children. And they don't, and I'm saying this in general, as an institution, as a gender, as a race. White women give birth to the men who are destroying my children. And I don't think that as a group that they take responsibility for educating their boys and girls not to become racist, genocidal. I don't think that they, in all of their outward manifestations, whether it's in Hollywood, in books, at work, I don't see that as a group they have acknowledged the harm done to my children, the harm done to my men, the harm that we have experienced in terms of these these centuries. I think they have a problem with their men and their own culture. I would ask them to take care of that problem. I don't need them in my movement, except what Dessalines said. You know, celles blancs qui sont bons blancs, c'est blancs qui mettent fusil sous l'autre blanc. That's it. That's where I stand.
Sorry, what does that mean?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because there's a poem by Maurice Leroy. It's a very, and it's on my website. Just put Èzili Dantò blanc manan. The only good white is the one that shoots the bad one. So for me, that's what they need to do. The white feminists need to acknowledge that there is a difficulty within their own culture. And that difficulty started way up in Europe, where the European, before he came to see my children in Africa, he was burning his women and his girls because they were the healers.
Yes.
He was doing all that. They need to resolve that. And not conflate it with my enslavement. Because I am due reparations. I am due restitution. For instance, when we talk about New Orleans, right? And some of these territories, a lot of women who had plantations in Haiti, they kept getting those checks that those Haitians in Haiti had to go back to almost sharecropping. So we have different hurts. I'm not denying her hurt.
Yes.
I'm not denying all of that. But I am saying that at a kafu, at a certain intersection, we might be able to be going the same place, but we're not there yet at that intersection. That's one. Number two, with regards to Black male patriarchy, it exists. It's awful, and we need to deal with it between us. I, as a lawyer, it's really difficult for me to go to a court system and take my men there into their system.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying to Black women. I'm saying to Black women, listen, there are so many women who have shown you the road. Do you really need Susan B. Anthony to show you the road, or the abolitionists? When you have Grand Guiton, Grand Toya, Défilé, Nzinga, did Nzinga go around saying, well, you know, do I have something in common with white women in England? I think that the society, white society, wants our attention. I'm really big on that. I want people to hear me. They want your attention because there's something missing in them, that they require your soul. They want your very soul. So that means if Black love, which is what I express, scares white women, Black love scares them for whatever reason, but that's not my problem. Just because I love being Haitian, just because I love my people, doesn't necessarily mean I dislike individual white people. I dislike the system of white supremacy that's vied for the soul of Black folks in recorded history. So for me, I would never, you know, I know there's like the pink movement of women in America. They seem to have devolved the feminist movement into sexuality. And that's just not my fight. I'm not fighting for sleeping with someone. I'm not fighting for that. I'm fighting so that another 5-year-old girl from Haiti will have the opportunities to do what I've been able to do, to visit the world, to travel, to be human, to read whatever books they want, to share in cultures. I think they have their culture, we have a culture. There's so many things that I like. And I think every child, white, black, should have the opportunity to see the world, share in what the best there is in the world. But right now we're at a point where whenever a black woman expresses love, especially a heterosexual black woman, I sometimes feel very terrorized by the feminist sexual agenda, because they have to sexualize Èzili Dantò. If you're a strong woman, you don't like men. I love men. I love Ogu. Give me Ogu any day. You see, so I love strength, and I think that a black man who has strength does not abuse a woman or a child.
Yes. So what's your advice to sisters who are being affected by patriarchy? What do they do whilst they're working in the struggle?
Step into your power, get out of if you're in an abusive relationship that doesn't validate you, you must move, you must leave. You must find a space that elevates you. You must tell those, I have had to, in my time, right? I've had to tell black males, you know, I'm not dealing with that. I know at work, you've just been told off by some white woman and then you come home to take it out on me. Not happening. And it does happen every day. Where the Abrahamic religions have created a paradigm that makes women not speak. I mean, in Haiti, they just took out her tongue. That's the paradigm. The paradigm of the Abrahamic religion is that we are here as bodies. We are here as ornaments. We are here as laborers for whoever. But it is us who must define our role. It is us who have to say, I mean, you have to say it within your own personal relationship. I don't think that you can say it to the masses, because what's local is global. So live your life, find those who will support your independence, be whatever you want to be. I mean, I see a lot of these men on YouTube talking about the Black goddess and how they love the Black goddess, right? And those same men are abusing the women in their life, or taking them for granted, or using them as sexual objects. So this is what patriarchy is. It's a big, big, big problem, but I don't feel any connection to the feminist movement, because in Vodun, I can be the highest priest there is. So I don't need to go nowhere.
Beautiful. Thank you, sisters. Thank you. Oh, thank you, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Uncle Bia. And we are down to the final question of the afternoon, and that comes from Abigail. Abigail, you could go ahead and unmute and speak your question, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Greeting, everyone. Thank you for the great job that you guys are doing. My question is for Ezili. Recently, I saw a video on YouTube features a beautiful young lady getting married to a young man mounted by one of the Ogu, and she looks like a younger version of you. Was that you in the video?
Hell no. Hell to the no.
Okay.
Never happening.
Okay. She looks just like you. Beautiful, just like you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank
But
you,
no,
thank you.
I wouldn't do something so personal in a
Okay.
ritual.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I mean, the show is amazing today. Thank you.
All right.
All Mama Bello.
All right.
You have Ezili Dantò. That's the way it goes.
That's true.
Yeah, she had to quote the great Whitney Houston, "Hell to the no."
Yeah. Like what? Say what?
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for all the great questions again. And before we end, I want to go ahead and share one more time. I know a lot of people in the chat were looking for information for Ezili. I think the best way to get most of the information is to go to her website, right? www.ezilidanto.com. There you could find a lot of the initiatives and great work that Ezili has been doing for many years in IET and everywhere she goes. So check out ezilidanto.com. I'm sure there's also a contact page there where you can contact her directly and also donate to all of the different initiatives that she has going on. So please visit ezilidanto.com. And of course, all of the information for Fondation Félicité. Take note so you can keep in contact with Bello. And also there are ways to donate to all of the causes brought forth by Fondation Félicité. And also Thoroughbred Books. I had to throw myself in there as well. So of course we have absolutely. So of course we have my collection of books, Haiti, Makandal, and Boukman, and of course the blockbuster Heroes of the Haitian Revolution, written by Bayyinah Bello. So you could go to www.thoroughbredbooks.com to order your copy. All right, thank you.
I'm missing Macron.
So I believe that is the end of our show. So thank you everyone for joining. But before we leave, and also thank you very, very much to our special guest, Èzili Danto. This is one, man, we haven't been doing these shows for a long, long time, but I could tell that this one is going to be at the top of the list. Thank you for your great wisdom and knowledge and insight on the many different topics that we spoke about this afternoon. And hopefully you'll be able to join us again.
Thank you for having me. And remember, right now is Boakaima. So I have a mailing list. You can send me your email. I'll put you on our mailing list. And if you go to the Èzili Dantò and Facebook, I'm posting a lot there. So you can join in, because there's going to be a ceremony in Haiti and there's going to be a ceremony in Brooklyn. And we support those for the last 20 years. So it'd be great for you guys to support that and to support the teachings of Boakaima. So I have links that says Haitian epistemology. So that's all of that. And thank you so very much, Funds. I really appreciate what you're doing. This was wonderful. And Bayyinah, bon bagay.
Merci, merci. All right. Let me just remind you, we don't want to do this just for talking. Don't go back and say, oh, Èzili Dantò, she said, da 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 da. Pick up what you pick up and apply it. Work at it. We are doing this for tomorrow, for a better tomorrow for our people. The only way we can make tomorrow better is for each thing that we understand, we put it into our lives, we apply it, we practice it, we get good at it. Whatever we do, we get better every time. Trust yourself, love yourself. I'm sorry, I should have started with know yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, and tap in the divine power in you. Tomorrow is our tomorrow. Take good care. We reclaim our planet.
All right, everyone. Thank you for logging on, and we'll see you again next week, next Thursday, on another episode of Bayyinah and Friends. All right, everybody. Be blessed. Be safe. See you next week.
Blessings, peace.
And blessing and peace to everyone.
Say
Blessing and peace.
Bless you. Bye.
Merci en pile.
Blessings. Bye.
thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Blessing.
All right, everybody. Thanks for staying on for, we're going for like over 3 hours. All right, everybody. So have a great rest of the day and have a great weekend. Peace.